Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. We're going to be going over the Week 2 start sits. We're going to answer questions from the chat room. I'll be pulling up I'm going to pull up a screen share here, and we're going to go through all my start sit charts for the week. We got a fun game tomorrow night, the New York Giants at the Washington football team. If you guys are new to the Fantasy Fellowship, I hope I can earn your subscription throughout this show. If you go to thefantasyfellowship.com, I did put a link in the description below. Click on Week 2, and this will get you everything that we're going to cover in tonight's episode. So I did want to show some new features, but the start sit charts, we're going to cover these one by one. But I did want to show you guys, I have been, every week I'm going to update these on the weekly charts. And this is basically, I kind of explained it here. Let me actually get out of this. But it says the charts below show how many fantasy points each team allows by position. So this helps us identify defenses that we need to target. So here's the list for quarterbacks. The Titans and the Browns allowed the most points to quarterbacks last week. The Saints and the Eagles allowed the least. And then it just kind of goes through each, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So I like to rely on those if I have a tough matchup. I want to see who's got the easy matchup. So I did have a question from our guy Sports Dog 1000. We are in a free fantasy fellowship league, and I just kind of want to explain how the free agent budget works. So at the beginning of the season, you are awarded with $100. Everyone gets that free imaginary $100 budget, and on your typical waiver wire run on the Tuesday night, everyone goes and puts their claims in on players where you 0 to 100. You put, I want to spend $20 on Tim Patrick or something, right? And then once the waivers process, it's a bid system. So whoever bid the most for that player gets awarded the player. And then on Wednesday morning, the next day, you see everyone here is the people that are in the yellow here, the waivers through Thursday, meaning I can claim, if I wanted to claim Michael Carter, I can hit claim on him. I can update my bid here. The minimum bid is $1. But for the most part here, I can bid as much as I want on a player. This will go through the evening, and then I will get that player for however much I bid on him. But otherwise, if you see a plus here, someone that is listed as a free agent, you can add these guys for free. You don't have to put a claim in them. They are people that nobody wanted, so they are just sitting on the waiver system. And technically, anytime a player is cut, he will go to the waivers for 1 day. And if you see a guy that you want that is cut, you can put a claim on him or see if he falls through the next day. So I hope that helps. I believe the free agent auction bidding, the FAAB, is the best way to run your waivers. It gives everybody a fair shot. You don't have to worry about who's got the higher claim priority or anything like that. It's basically like, if I want this guy, I'm going to pay up for him. I'm going to get my guy. And it just adds a fun little auction wrinkle to your Tuesday evening. So that's the waiver wire process that we're going with in that league. So let's get into the Week 2 start sit charts. I also have the link of not the link, but I have the Vegas odds here. You can see the spreads. You can see, I guess I should highlight the implied point totals on that side, but you can see all that information from the games. And Thursday Night Football, the New York Giants at the Washington football team. Washington's favored to win by 3. It's a really low point total. It's 40.5. I think that might actually be, it is projected to be the lowest scoring game of the Week 2 slate. So I don't know how you guys want to navigate this one, but I think the must-start player of this game is Antonio Gibson. He's got top 5, top 10 running back upside in this one. We saw Melvin Gordon bust off for a 70-yard touchdown run, and just a lot of running opportunity here for Gibson. With Taylor Heineke at the quarterback, I think he's worth a potential quarterback 2 for Superflex leagues. He should have been added in most Superflex leagues. Whether he's your 2 or your 3, I think he belongs on a roster spot. Terry McLaurin. I know people are kind of asking themselves, is Taylor Heineke going to be good for McLaurin and Logan Thomas? I think he will be. I did want to pull up the Bucs-Washington playoff game from 2020. This was the last game that our guy Taylor Heineke was able to start for us that we have data on. He went 26 of 44 for 306, a touchdown and a pick. This is, again, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. He also added 6 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. So he's got some juice with his legs. And then you look at his receivers. Cam Sims had a big game, 7 for 104, but there's Terry with 6 for 75, and also Logan Thomas, 5 for 74. So it was a pretty good day for Terry and Logan Thomas. I think Antonio Gibson was still getting back healthy with that toe injury, so he didn't really have an effective game. But Taylor Heineke, he can be very helpful for Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas. You're going to keep those guys in your lineups. You're starting the Washington defense. This is a prime matchup for your Washington football team. Defense, Adam Humphries, Diami Brown, who played a lot of snaps, and watch him. That's probably one of the more fun players I'm going to keep an eye on tomorrow night. J.D. McKissic, Jarrett Patterson. We're just going to keep all these guys on the bench. In terms of the Giants, Daniel Jones had a nice week 1 against Denver defense, but he's a fringe quarterback to super flex. I think if you had to choose a guy in this game, I'd rather have Taylor Heineke's numbers than Daniel Jones's numbers. As far as receivers and running backs, Sterling Shepard probably has the best value for a wide receiver 3 in Superflex. And then I guess since we're here, one of the things that's cool about these charts here is if we click into the wide receiver chart, you're going to see that the Washington football team, they allowed the 4th most wide receiver points last week for PPR leagues. They allowed 24 catches, 278 yards, and a touchdown to the Chargers wide receiver group. So that's a lot of points that might actually play very well into Sterling Shepard's hands. Kenny Golladay, just a flex. If you have questions on Golladay, we can get to those in a second. And then Saquon Barkley, I have him listed here with a question. I don't know what we do with Saquon Barkley. It's a short week. I prefer to sit Saquon Barkley. I don't really want anything to do with this game for Saquon Barkley. I think Sterling Shepard's the only guy that I want to get in my lineup for the Giants. Not going to start the Giants defense. I think that could be a disaster. Kyle Rudolph, Darius Slayton played well week 1. I'll watch for him. Devontae Booker, Evan Ingram's out. I would try not to rely on the Giants in fantasy this week. Sterling Shepard's a fringe wide receiver 3, so we'll see what happens there. But this is a fun Thursday night game. We get to see Gibson, Taylor Heineke reveal, McLaurin, Logan Thomas. I like the Washington side. So before we get to the Sunday games, I'm going to take a peek here. Let's go through some of these chat room comments and questions. So let's see. So Don was Devin. Players will be $0 from Wednesday until they play a game. Correct. If a player, if a player is cut, he goes to waivers for 1 day to be bid on. But if he's just sitting there and he's labeled as a free A, he's got the green plus, you can just pick him up and he's $0 until Wednesday. So I've made the last few years, I've been really successful with trying to save my waiver wire money. And Wednesday morning, I go and get the scraps. I wait and week 13, 14, I have $100 still. I go spend a big money when, that clear guy is all of a sudden thrust into a big role. So good evening, Aiden. Hope you're having a good night. Will you be talking about Carolina today? We're going to talk about everything. We're going to try to get through all the start-sit charts. It looks like Carolina is going to be, where are they on my list? They are the 5th. They are not there. Let's see. They're about the 7th or 8th game that we're going to talk about. We'll kind of breeze through some of these ones. And then definitely at the end, I'm going to open it up to start sit questions, but I'll kind of breeze through some of these charts here and just kind of talk about what's on my mind. What's up with A.J. Brown? This is typical of A.J. Brown. Again, if you go to the link in the description, I put a link actually in the report, a link to the practice reports. So we'll pull this up. This will be very useful for us. A.J. Brown typically does not practice on Wednesdays. He's going to be just fine. I'm trying to click on Tennessee here. He was limited today. This is what he did all of last year. Wednesday is typically a really light walkthrough day for a lot of teams. Thursday and Friday practice participations are the most important. So if we get a full practice by Friday, A.J. Brown's going to be good to go, but he's usually limited on Wednesday, so I'm not too concerned about A.J. Brown just yet. Did I win the Zeke deal? Let me look back at what we said here. We just got Zeke and Eagles Devonta Smith, and you got rid of Barkley and Jamar Chase. I would rather have Zeke, and then as far as Devonta Smith and Jamar Chase, they're kind of equal in my eyes right now. So I'd like your side there of Zeke and Devonta Smith, who looked really, really good. I think people are going to be kicking themselves for passing on him. 10-team PPR flex: Sutton, Swift, Laviska, Debo, Cooper, Mike Davis, Mike Williams. So I'm assuming, is Cooper, can you answer, Aiden, is Cooper Amari Cooper or Cooper Kupp? I think a 10-team flex PPR. Whew. How many of these guys do we have to pick? Is this like we only get to pick one? Because if it's only one, I'm gonna have a hard time picking just one. So it's Amari Cooper. And how many do we need to pick? Do we need to pick just one? Let me just pull up some numbers real quick. I really like DeAndre Swift going up against Green Bay. He's probably just one. Okay, so if you wanted to pick a running back out of this group, we're gonna cross off Mike Davis. I don't want anything to do with Mike Davis against Tampa Bay. No, thank you. We just saw what Zeke did. So if you wanted to do a running back, it's Swift. And then looking at these receivers, I don't know if I trust Cortland Sutton just yet. I'm okay with letting him be on my bench and seeing him succeed until I put him in my lineup. Laviska going up against Denver. I don't know if that's a high ceiling game. I think it's going to be Debo, Amari Cooper, or Mike Williams. We gotta continue to start Amari Cooper. I think that's probably the highest situation. But between Cooper, Debo, and Mike Williams, I think that's probably the biggest potential. Let me just look at one thing real quick. I think we got to start Amari Cooper. He's a top 5, top 10 receiver. So we'll just lay that one to rest and say Cooper. What's going on, EJ Klee? Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Full PPR, we got to start 3, at least one be a wide receiver. DJ Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Devonta Smith, Damian Harris, Tyson Williams. So I know Tyson Williams had a really good week 1 night. I was concerned that he didn't really get a lot of carries in the second half, though. And with this backfield in Baltimore traditionally being a 2-back backfield, I think I would, if you're going to start a running back, Elijah Mitchell was probably the more interesting case. Damian Harris, though, Damian Harris against the Jets, I like him probably the most as running backs. And then for a wide receiver, I think you got to go with Devonta Smith. You got to roll with who is hot there. Jalen Hurts looks really good. So if we're going to pick 3, I want Devonta Smith in there for sure. I think I want Damian Harris against the Jets. I know people are nervous about the fumble and whatnot, but I think a juicy matchup against the Jets, that should get him rolling. And then it's going to come down to DJ Moore versus Elijah Mitchell. Let me just look at some numbers real quick. DJ Moore's got a tough matchup against New Orleans. It is at home for these guys, so I kind of like that. I see DJ Moore probably, with a 12 to 15 point floor, whereas our guy Elijah Mitchell, who was a massive waiver wire darling last night. Elijah Mitchell, I can see that one kind of going multiple ways, but I think what I'm going to do with this one is I want to get Devonta Smith, Damian Harris, and DJ Moore in my lineups. Those are some of the bigger names, and I kind of want to wait and see if Trey Sermon is hanging out on the active roster week 2. We might see some interesting things. And yeah, the Fantasy Fellowship does have a TikTok. If you guys are on the TikTok, check out. Just search the Fantasy Fellowship. We're doing some big numbers over there. 100 what? Amari 1, and then we got one more. 10-team PPR, flex Bobby Woods, Myles Gaskin, LaVisca, Corey Davis, Callaway, Tyson, Shep, then Winston or Tua. So the 10-team PPR flex, we have to pick one guy. Let's see. This one's tough. I thought Myles Gaskin looked pretty good. He's probably got the safest floor of all these guys. I like Corey Davis. I don't like the matchup against the Patriots, but Corey Davis, he is kind of the one guy I trust for the Jets. Between Winston and Tua going up against the Buffalo Bills, I kind of like the Winston. I'm going to go with Winston over against Carolina. So we'll get that one out of the way. But as far as this wide receivers with Gaskin with Gaskin or Tyson Williams, I think I'm leaning towards a wide receiver. Let me just pull this up real quick. Corey Davis, probably a fringe top 30, top 36 receiver. Maybe. This one's tough. I kind of like Gaskin just because he's got a safe high floor. It's a tough game against Buffalo. I think I'm going to flex Myles Gaskin and start Jameis Winston. Just because it's the safest move. I think he's a safe, 12 to 15 point play. Somebody put 45 on Elijah in the Fellowship League. I think that was Justin, was it not? That might have been Justin. Any comments on Ayuk sit until proven? I think so, Devin. I don't want to risk it. The thing that I saw today, Kyle Shanahan kind of called him out and said he's not going to be getting full snaps until he's ready. So I think it's a mix of injury and just maybe he got a little too complacent and took things for granted, and he let Trent Sherfield have a really good training camp behind him. So I'm going to sit Ayuk until proven otherwise. What's going on, Gabe? Thanks for hanging out. I have Mixon, James Robinson, and Saquon. Should I bench Barkley or put in the flex this week? Mixon, James Robinson, and Saquon. Should I bench Barkley or put in the flex this week? I kind of want to see Saquon Barkley prove it, especially a tough matchup against Washington. You're starting Mixon for sure. You're starting James Robinson, it sounds like. It depends on your flex options, Gabe, but I think I'm totally okay with letting Saquon sit on the bench. Again, he only touched the ball 11 times last week. He barely outsnapped Devontae Booker. It's a short week, tough matchup. What's the ceiling for Saquon Barkley? Is it like 14, 15 points? I think I'd rather roll the dice with one of my flex options. And yeah, that was Justin. Justin spent a boatload of money. Tron, what's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out. Should I trade Mike Davis and Logan Thomas for Damian Harris? I have Kelsey. Okay. And then ATL Online doesn't seem good at all, and Harris run the ball 23 times. Mike Davis and Logan Thomas for Damian Harris. Is that the deal breaker, like, are you able to just trade Mike Davis for Damian Harris? That might be kind of fair. I guess if that's what you need to do, I'm fine with doing it. I like Logan Thomas. You already have Travis Kelce. So otherwise, I would maybe say Mike Davis and Logan Thomas. Maybe try to shop that for other running backs. You might be able to get someone even a little bit better. But I do like Damian Harris. If that's the deal, I'm probably going to take Damian Harris because you're upgrading Mike Davis pretty good. Atlanta, man, I don't know if we're ever going to trust that running game. Cordero Patterson looked kind of good too. So I would take the trade, but I would maybe shop it a little bit and see if you can get a better running back. But I'll take Damian Harris if I have to. What's up? Thanks for hanging out, JJ. Tyler Lockett or Elijah Mitchell for the flex this week? You're starting Tyler Lockett. No, not even close. Give me Tyler Lockett against that Tennessee defense. That's a Tyler Lockett last week, man. I want that upside in my flex position. I want to answer Aiden's question quick, and then we're gonna cover the Cincinnati-Chicago game. So 10-team PPR flex, we're gonna choose one. Tyson Williams, Tyler Boyd, Corey Davis, Callaway, Shep, Pittman, Mark Ingram, or Elijah Mitchell. I think I'm gonna go with Shepard. I like what I see from Shepard. Last week, again, I covered this earlier when I pulled up the wide receiver stats. The Washington football team allowed the 4th most wide receiver points last week. And if you think about Keenan Allen, they kind of use Sterling Shepard the same way. I could see Sterling Shepard racking up 5, 6, 7 catches and having a nice floor in this one. So I like Sterling Shepard probably the most. If you had to pick somebody else, I suppose Tyler Boyd has a nice matchup in Chicago. I could see that going well too, but I'm going to stick with Shepard or Tyler Boyd, or Corey Davis would probably be my third option there. And I appreciate you, Justin. Subscribe if I'm helping you guys out. Let me know how I'm doing in the comments. But let's get into this. These Sunday start sit charts. Cincinnati at Chicago. Really fun game. Cincinnati has a chance to go 2-0 against the NFC North to start the year. The Chicago side of things, Andy Dalton, he's maybe a quarterback too in Superflex leagues. You're not going to care about him in 1 QB leagues. It's the revenge game, Andy Dalton versus Cincinnati, kind of fun. I think David Montgomery is a top 12, top 10 running back until proven otherwise. Allen Robinson, he should get right in this game. He did have a floor game last week, so I think we're going to probably get some of that third-round value out of Allen Robinson that we drafted him for. Cole Kmet, I was pumping him up on the waiver wire show last night. I think he can be a fringe tight end 1 streamer. The snap counts were heavily in his favor over Jimmy Graham. He also had, I think it was 7 targets to Jimmy Graham's 2 targets. So I'm a big fan of Cole Kmet. Pretty soft defense in Cincinnati. And then Darnell Mooney. If you guys have Darnell Mooney questions, I can answer those. I'm not excited to get Darnell Mooney, but he's a flex option at best in PPR leagues. Maybe the Bears defense, don't feel great about it. I did pump up Damian Williams in the waiver wire report this week, especially if you're a David Montgomery owner. We had a scare where Montgomery left in the 3rd quarter for a finger injury. He came back, everything good to go. But Damian Williams looked good. He had a good high floor PPR day. So keep an eye on Damian Williams. And then I'm not going to trust Marquise Goodwin, Demir Byrd, Jimmy Graham. But when does Justin Fields play? Is this the game? If Cincinnati wins, do we see Justin Fields start next week? I think so. So hopefully Justin Fields, I guess if Justin Fields is on your waiver wire in a 1 quarterback league, and if you have the room, you should try to carry him. So check your waiver wires on Justin Fields. Cincinnati Bengals side, Joe Burrow, quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. I don't know if I quite trust him for quarterback 1. If you do have quarterback 1 questions with Joe Burrow, I can answer those. Joe Mixon, a fantastic pick. If you got him at the end of the 2nd round or the 3rd round, congrats. Joe Mixon's a running back 1 every week that he's healthy. Jamar Chase, wide receiver 2. T. Higgins going to be a wide receiver 3 for me. I'm trying to get these guys in my lineups if I can. And then Tyler Boyd, I'm gonna double down on Tyler Boyd. I know I told some other people here to start some other players over Tyler Boyd. Like Sterling Shepard, I'm still going to start Sterling probably over Tyler Boyd because Sterling Shepard's the leading target guy in his offense. Boyd might be behind Chase and Higgins, but I still like Boyd's floor. If you have Boyd questions, I can answer those. I don't care about Cincinnati's defense. Keep an eye on CJ Uzama if you need a tight end to keep an eye on. Samaje Perine. If Joe Mixon's getting this many carries, Samaje Perine could eventually be put into starting duty for a week or 2 if there's an injury to Mixon. Mike Thomas, Drew Sample, really nothing to see here. We'll move on to the Houston and the Cleveland game. I just want to get caught up on some of the comments here. What's going on, Kyle? Thanks for hanging out tonight. 10-team PPR, trade Lockett and Hunt for Gibson. So his starting lineup is Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown. Heavy Titans lineup. I like it. Hopefully they get back on track this week. We got DK Metcalf, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Lockett. I have David Montgomery, Hunt, Edmonds, Gaskin, Chase, Callaway off the bench. This team is stacked. Okay, so trading Lockett and Hunt for Antonio Gibson. If you trade away Lockett, you would be able to basically pull up Montgomery or Gibson in the flex. I think I like that. Again, with Tyler Lockett, like, he has those boom weeks, but we don't really like it when he gets 5 or 6 points. So I think I'm okay with this. I would maybe try to ask for something a little bit more. I'm like kind of 50-50 on it. I think it's kind of fair for both sides. You're getting the best player in Antonio Gibson, and he's going to probably pop off tomorrow night too. But I'm kind of 50-50 on it because your team's pretty stacked. You're going to probably, you're going to plug in. I don't know the difference. If a Lockett versus a Gibson in your flex, I don't really know if I see a massive upgrade there. Your running backs are better, yes, because you're upgrading Gibson over Hunt. But this is kind of 50-50. If you're a big Gibson fan, I say go for it. But I do like Tyler Lockett quite a bit. So to me, it's kind of 50-50. I probably would lean towards keeping Lockett and Kareem Hunt just because I like to have more bench pieces on my side there. And I just don't know. Lockett against Tennessee this weekend, I could see another 20-25 points in this one. So I think I would hold. It is a keeper league too. We keep 3 guys every year, no penalties or nothing. So Gibson could be a keeper. Now I see what you're saying. And I would rather keep Gibson. So if it's a keeper league, do it. Let's friggin' do it. Let's go get Gibson. Hunt and Lockett, probably not really keeper-worthy materials, whereas Gibson could be a first-round pick next year, so I like it. Fantasy Guru, thanks for hanging out tonight. PPR Flex, I need 2. Julio Jones, Eli Mitchell, Tyson Williams, Robert Woods. I'm going to go back to the well on Robert Woods. He did catch a touchdown late. I want to see his usage go up. Julio Jones going up against Seattle seems like he got called out by the coach. We might see Julio Jones kind of go off and respond to Mike Vrabel's comments. I like Elijah Mitchell. He's probably got the safest floor. So for me, I'm going to say get Elijah Mitchell in there. He's probably got a 10 to 12 point PPR floor. They didn't really throw him the ball, and I'm kind of nervous about Trey Sermon being active in this one. Tyson Williams going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't know how many times they're going to be able to get to establish the run. They might be throwing the ball a lot. Latavius Murray kind of clogs it up. So I'm kind of cloudy on Tyson Williams. I like Elijah Mitchell, so let's flex him. And then between Julio Jones and Robert Woods, I would have a tough time choosing between the two. Let me just look at a reference real quick here. Robert Woods is probably a top 15 to 20 receiver, whereas Julio Jones kind of has a wider floor. So I'm going to say Robert Woods and Eli Mitchell. But if you want to get Julio in there, I can see that being successful too. 10-team PPR, flex, Chris Carson, Brandon Ayuk, James Conner, Callaway, Shep, Diami Brown, Ingram, James White. Give me Chris Carson. Chris Carson's going to get the most touches out of these guys. It is against Tennessee. Give me Chris Carson. What is your stance on Tyler Boyd? We hold. It was 1 week. It was a game where Joe Burrow only threw the ball 27 times. It was his first game back from major ACL injury. We're going to hold on Boyd. It wouldn't surprise me if he pops this weekend against the Chicago Bears and all of a sudden everything is healed. I think it might be kind of like whack-a-mole with the Bengals receivers. There might be every week there could be a different guy that leads the team in scoring. So I'm going to hold Tyler Boyd. We won't panic just yet. If he goes out and if he goes out on Sunday and he gets 3 or 4 targets again and only 5 or 6 fantasy points, then we can kind of begin to panic. But I'm going to hold Tyler Boyd and see what Chicago brings. What is up with Chase Edmonds? Is he a safe play? I love Chase Edmonds. I was nervous about Chase Edmonds at the beginning of the year, but as far as PPR goes, if this is a PPR league, you're going to start Chase Edmonds. He had 106 all-purpose yards, 4 catches, pretty safe floor there. I don't expect Edmonds to score many touchdowns this season, but he's kind of like a Myles Gaskin at this point. I kind of view them very similarly, where they're both very productive with limited touches. In a PPR league, 3, 4, 5 catches, he should rack up just with the 4 or 5 catches per game, he's going to probably rack up 50 to 60 yards. So I like Chase Edmonds quite a bit. Minnesota's defense does not scare me. Who is a good running back I can trade for Tyler Boyd? So you have Tyler Boyd. You want to acquire a running back. Let me just look at a list of running backs here. I would, if you could, because so here's my stance with Tyler Boyd is his value is super low. If he comes out on Sunday and he catches 8 balls for 92 yards, all of a sudden Tyler Boyd's value goes a lot up. So I don't want to sell Tyler Boyd after a bad game. I'd rather try to sell Tyler Boyd after a good game because all of a sudden you're looking at a much better running back. So Tyler Boyd right now, off of a bad game. Let me just look at a list of running backs here and see if I can find a name here. Technically, like Chase Edmonds, a Chase Edmonds type Kareem Hunt, some of those PPR running backs. I like those two guys. I wouldn't mind asking the owner for either of those two guys. So I would start there. Kind of some of those high floor PPR running backs make sense to me. What do you think Terry McLaurin will do tomorrow? I pulled up the numbers from the last game with Taylor Heineke. I think he went like 6 for 76 or something, kind of the same. I would expect James Bradbury to be on him, but since this is a divisional game, we're going to go back to, this is the first time we're going to do this all year. We're going to go to our friend StatMuse, and I'll show you guys what StatMuse can do. So I like to look at this every now and then, especially when I know a player has played a team a handful of times. And you just type in Terry McLaurin, and we're going to click on versus Giants. This is going to tell us what he's been doing against the New York Giants the last couple games. So his career in 3 games played, 21 catches, 29 targets, 275 yards, and 1 touchdown. I want to add in the word game log here, and we'll see his individual games. So 2020 last year, he went 7 for 115 and a touchdown. The earlier game of 2020, 7 for 74 and no touchdowns. So it looks like a 14-point game and then a big game here of over 20 points. So when you take into fact that I don't know who the quarterback was, it was either Dwayne Haskins or Alex Smith in these games, you're probably looking at a window of 12 to 15 points for Terry McLaurin as a floor. So I'm feeling pretty okay with Terry McLaurin tomorrow night. No problem. Thanks for asking the question, Kyle. Gordon, that's Melvin Gordon, Marquez Callaway, or Galladay. Start 1. I'm going to take Melvin Gordon going up against Jacksonville. That's the best matchup. I would rank them Gordon, Callaway, and Galladay. That's probably how I do it. But the Jacksonville matchup, I would expect Denver to be able to run the ball quite a bit against the Jaguars. 10-team PPR flex. Najee, CD, Claypool, Ayuk. Najee against the Raiders, but man, you got to start not Chase Claypool. You're starting CD Lamb, no questions about it, hands down. CD Lamb here. 10-team PPR flex: Najee, Jacobs, Chase, Waddle, Smith, AB, Sermon, Mike Williams, then Kittle or Pitts. Kittle versus Philly. Give me George Kittle. Give me George Kittle hands down. If I had to choose one of these flexes, let me think about this. I like as a flex, Najee has a safe floor here. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Smith. I love the rookie receivers, Antonio Brown, Sermon. We're not going to play Sermon. If you want a safe high floor play, I think Najee Harris will have success against the Raiders. You did draft Najee Harris before all these other guys, so I wouldn't mind going back to the well with Najee Harris. If I had to choose, though, I kind of want Mike Williams against Dallas. I would rank them either Najee or Mike Williams at the top. I think Mike Williams is going to be the real deal this year, though, guys. So for me, I'm going to choose Mike Williams. I'm very excited about him, and again, he plays Dallas. And yeah, StatMuse is awesome, especially so if you have a player that has played a team multiple times, especially these divisional matchups. You can just type in the player's name, type in who they're playing, and then add the word game log. And all of a sudden, you're getting a lot of stats, and you see everything that you need here. So statmuse.com. We'll use this a lot throughout the season. So I hope you guys hang out. We'll look at these quite a bit. I can bench Juju on that league. Yeah, we're gonna bench Juju against the Raiders. It could be a good game, but I want to get back to some of the start-sit charts. We'll take a break from the questions for a little bit. Houston at Cleveland. The only Tyrod Taylor, quarterback 2, super flex, sure, whatever. Brandon Cooks can be a wide receiver 3. He had a great game against Jacksonville. I'm not going to trust Mark Ingram, David Johnson. I just kind of want to stay away from Houston. We might see them kind of crash back to earth against a good Cleveland Browns team. Baker Mayfield, fringe quarterback 1. The Browns rushed for 4 touchdowns last week. Baker Mayfield didn't throw for any touchdowns. I got to think that some of those are going to go his way. You're starting Nick Chubb. You're starting Kareem Hunt as a running back 2 flex. Jarvis Landry, I think, needs to be in your lineup. We did see that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be out already, so that makes me like Landry. If you need a tight end streamer, David Njoku can be your guy. And then start the Browns defense. We'll watch for Hooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Anthony Schwartz, but pretty simple from the Browns side of things. A fun game here. The Rams at the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams are favored to win by 4. You have a 47.5 implied point total. I think Matt Stafford needs to be locked into a top 10, top 12 quarterback role. You were rewarded for waiting on QB if you got Matt Stafford, so continue to roll with him as your QB1. I know it's a tough matchup. Russell Wilson just carved these guys up, though, pretty nicely last Sunday. Daryl Henderson Jr., he's going to remain a running back 2 flex, a kind of a top 20, top 24 option for you. Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver 1 for this team. Robert Woods is kind of now, to me, I need to see more data points on this offense, but Robert Woods is a wide receiver 3 flex. Tyler Higbee, I feel more comfortable with Tyler Higbee in my lineup as my tight end. And then Van Jefferson, he was the clear number 3 wide receiver in this team in terms of snaps last weekend. He had the big bomb touchdown. I would look for him to get more involved as the season goes on. So if Van Jefferson's chilling on your waiver wire, I think you could maybe snag him at the end of your bench and see what happens. I'm probably going to start the Rams defense just any week. Doesn't really matter who they play. I love that defense. I will watch for more Sony Michel this week. I'm interested to see if he gets more in the mix. Deshaun Jackson, we'll just monitor him from afar. The Colts, Carson Wentz. I'd rather start Taylor Heineke than Carson Wentz. We shouldn't have questions there. I think you're committed to starting Jonathan Taylor every week. David Montgomery had a really nice game last week, and I think the Colts offensive line's a lot better than the Bears. So Jonathan Taylor should be fine. He's got that PPR workload that he had last week. Look for him to continue to catch the ball well. Naheem Hines, he's kind of in that James White, Kareem Hunt, Chase Edmonds, high floor PPR 2 tier. You can get him as your flex if you need to. Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal, I don't feel great about it. If you guys have questions on those guys, I can answer them. But I would try to avoid everybody on the Colts side besides Taylor and Hines. That's who the offense runs through. I kind of probably want to avoid the Rams defense, Campbell, Jack Doyle, tight ends, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I think the Rams look really good in this one. Before I get to the Buffalo-Miami game, this one's going to be a fun game first, but I want to look at some of these. No problem. I want to look at some of these comments. Is this a good DFS lineup? Lamar Jackson against the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Landry, Christian Kirk, Devonta Smith, Travis Kelce, Devontae Parker, and New England defense. I like the defense call a lot. I love the Kelce call, of course. Lamar Jackson, I have no problem with that. You're banking on Kareem Hunt and Melvin Gordon scoring touchdowns. I think Jarvis Landry's a really sneaky play. He's probably pretty cheap as well. Christian Kirk operated as the number 2 wide receiver pretty much last week in terms of targets for the Cardinals. Going up against Minnesota too, the Bengals just did whatever they wanted on a only 27 passing attempts. So I like Kirk there. Devonta Smith going up. Eagles play. Who did the Eagles play? The 49ers. That could be fun. This is a fun lineup. I like it. You have a lot of high upside guys. They all have to hit for you to hit the jackpot. But that looks like a high ceiling lineup there. I like it. Yeah, Matt Stafford's going to be the real deal this season. Do you see Latavius Murray having any upside looking at the rest of the season? Good question. I think Latavius Murray and Tyson Williams are they're going to annoy each other. If you own Tyson, you're going to be annoyed by Latavius. If you own Latavius, you're going to be annoyed by Tyson Williams. Last season and years in the past, the Baltimore Ravens have used 2 running backs. They just use 2 running backs, whether it's J.K. Dobbins and Gus or Gus and Mark Ingram. That's kind of how their offense has formed over the last 2 seasons. So Latavius Murray does have value. I kind of view him as a running back 3 for your team. He's a guy that you don't want to have to rely on him as your running back 2. But if you have to pull him up off the bench, you're like, okay, cool. I have a shot at a touchdown tonight and 60 to 70 yards. Depends on the matchup. So I do see Latavius having value. I think he does belong on benches for now. And it's week 2. As we get more clarity, especially the more games we get from these teams, they're going to be telling us what they think of their players. So Murray is a hold for now, and we'll see what Tyson can do. He's still, a pretty young guy. He's hard to trust. I think the Latavius Murray, the coaches probably like what they can trust him, to say the least. You think Matt Stafford can be better than Brady this week? It'll be close. The issue with the Bucs is they play Atlanta. They're 12-point favorites at home against the Falcons. Brady might not have to do too much. If they get out to a quick lead in the first half, you might see a lot of running. So I think Stafford will be more involved in the game. I could see 2-3 touchdowns from Stafford. It's going to be a push. I'll say they can finish really close to each other. It just depends. If the Bucs get close to the red zone, do they run those touchdowns in? If so, Matt Stafford will be the higher scoring quarterback. Rolando, thanks for hanging out tonight. Is it worth it adding 3 players that are coming back to the IR spots? So if you have three IR spots and some guys like Jerry Jeudy, Michael Gallup are cut, I think it is worth it. Especially if you have three IR spots, you should fill those bad boys up. I think that is a really good idea, especially if you have three. That's a good amount. What's going on, Ryan? Thanks for hanging out tonight. I have Ayuk and Jeudy, who are now duds. Picked up Tyson Williams and Elijah Mitchell on waivers. What receiver should I target in a full PPR with them? What receiver should I target in a full PPR with them? As far as I'm confused, are you asking for receivers off the waiver wire or potential trading these guys? If you could answer that question, Ryan. Pick 3 from Rolando. Pick 3: Mike Evans, Debo, Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks. Give me Mike Evans, Debo, and Keenan Allen. I'm going to defer towards not trusting the Texans. It's a tougher matchup against the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to bank with Mike, Debo, and Keenan Allen. Report: Barkley unlikely to be unleashed versus Washington football team. What's the report from? And yeah, that's what worries me about the Ravens running back. I'll have to read this up here. But if you guys do have Saquon Barkley questions, let me go to the Twitter machine here and see what was just said about Saquon Barkley. Peek here. Saquon Barkley. I'll have to see where Justin got that information from. Interesting, though. If Saquon Barkley is unleashed, we'll see what happens. The forfeit league I'm on once. So we need some big assistant for a trade. Okay, so you want to – what receivers should target in full PPR with them? So if you're trying to send Tyson Williams and Elijah Mitchell in a trade, like a 2-for deal, you could probably get somebody. I mean, you're not going to get, like a top 15 stud wide receiver. You can maybe go and get some low end guys like Robert Woods, Tyler Boyd. Some of those names might be appealing. If you can get a T. Higgins, I would totally go do a T. Higgins, something like that. So with those two running backs, those guys are kind of fringe running back 2s. You're looking at a guy that is probably a wide receiver 3 on someone's lineup. So T. Higgins sticks out. I like his name quite a bit. I mean, you're not going to get a Stephon Diggs, Jacoby Myers maybe. Let me see here. You could try for a Devonta Smith. I don't know if you're going to get Debo off of his massive game. Let me look at some other receivers. Let's see here. If you like DJ Moore, that might be a receiver you could ask for. Basically, 2 running backs for a receiver. You're kind of looking at a fringe wide receiver 2-3. So somebody like probably not Adam Thielen. Someone like Antonio Brown. You could maybe try to get Mike Evans, who had a low game last week. So it's kind of those fringe wide receiver 2-3s that you're looking at there. Not like you're not going to get Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. You're looking at those guys. Even a Mike Williams could be kind of fun. You're looking at those kind of fringe. If you can get Tyler Lockett, that'd be sweet. Anybody that I kind of have listed as a wide receiver 2-3 makes a little bit of sense for me. Just cash in those running backs that you got on the waiver wire. Let's see. We answered that one. Let me see. Where did I get lost here? Rodgers, Cooks. What's this? What should my lineup be? 1 QB, 2 RBs, 2. Hold on here. That's a lot to unpack. Let me just kind of get back on track here. So I did want to kind of get back to going through some of these start sits here. We got about 20 minutes left in the show, so I'm gonna answer Aiden's question, and then I'm gonna kind of get through some of the material, and then we'll go back to some of these questions. So he needs to start 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Defense and kicker. I mean, you're going to start Washington football team defense. Rodgers, you're starting Rodgers against Detroit. You're starting Dalvin Cook. You're starting Calvin Ridley. You're starting DJ Moore. You're starting Hawkinson. I think you got to get Carson as your running back too. And then it comes down to that flex spot, whether it's Clyde Edwards or Sterling Shepard. Those are probably the 2 options. I might roll with Clyde Edwards-Helaire just because you drafted him higher. I give him another chance. And then kicker, I don't see any kickers listed here, so you'll have to find the best kicker that you can find. But again, you don't own a kicker. You can find a kicker. I guess I don't know who's available, but we will see. And then I'm going to get back to Rolando's question in a bit. I just want to cover Buffalo at Miami. Buffalo's favored to win by 3 points, 48.5-point implied total. This one's pretty simple. We know we're starting Josh Allen. We're starting Stephon Diggs. Those guys are not leaving our starting lineups. But Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, those guys are fringe wide receiver 3 flexes for me this week. Devin Singletary, I will only use Devin Singletary if Zach Moss is inactive. Again, if Moss is going to be on the roster this week, I don't want anything to do with the running backs. I think you can start Buffalo's defense. They played pretty well last week. And then we'll watch for Dawson Knox, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie on our benches. For the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, if Buffalo's humming along, Tua might have to play keep up. He also gets Will Fuller back this week, so I think Tua is a super flex quarterback too. Gaskin belongs as a running back 2 in your lineups. Will Fuller, if you do have Will Fuller coming back this week, I think you throw him out there right away as a wide receiver 3 and see what happens. Waddle and Parker are more kind of flexes. If you guys have questions on these guys, I prefer the higher floor of Jalen Waddle. Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, those guys might be competing for targets, whereas Waddle is in the slot. I think his role stays unaffected. I'm not going to use the Dolphins defense. Mike Gesicki, I think he's probably going to be dropped in a lot of leagues here. So if you do have Mike Gesicki, I wouldn't wait on him. Try to find a tight end like Jared Cook or somebody else. So that's pretty much it for the Dolphins game. We'll also cover this one really quick too, because the Jets, I'm not starting anybody on the Jets unless it's Corey Davis, and even then, going up against the Patriots, he's a top 40 receiver for me, a fringe wide receiver 3. If you have Corey Davis questions, we can get into that. But on the New England Patriots side, Mac Jones, quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. We'll see what they do with Damian Harris. I'm willing to start him. I'm going to be starting Damian Harris as my running back 2 in several leagues this weekend. I think it could be a get-right game for the Patriots. They're playing a rookie quarterback. Their defense knows what to do against rookie quarterbacks. I think Harris could rack up a bunch of touches. Jacoby Myers, I think I might even prefer starting Jacoby Myers over Corey Davis, wide receiver 3 flex. Jonnu Smith can be a fringe tight end 1. I like James White as a PPR running back 2. And then Nelson Aguilar, he's kind of a deep wide receiver play here, and potentially that could be a lot of fun. That's a good question, Devin. So the first one means the Patriots are favored to win by 5.5, and the second number, 42.5, that is the implied point total for the entire game. So that means between the Patriots and the Jets, they're expecting only 42.5 points to be scored between the two. And the way I find that by going to I look at the DraftKings sportsbook stuff quite a bit for these numbers. So when I begin putting these numbers in, I look at the spread. I'll put that spread in there. That's in parentheses, and then the implied point total is that other number in parentheses that I put there. So I usually update those every other day when I look through the DraftKings sportsbook. You're going to start the Patriots defense, hands down. We're not going to use the Jets defense, and then we'll kind of just monitor all these guys on the bench. And then before I get to some more questions, I want to cover. Let's knock out the San Francisco Eagles game here. Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe a quarterback too. I think I'd rather start Taylor Heineke. Jalen Hurts locked into our lineups. He's a top 5, top 10 quarterback pretty much every week as long as he's healthy. I think Miles Sanders and Elijah Mitchell carry similar value. They're both kind of wide running back 2s, kind of top 20, top 24 guys. I lean towards getting both of them in if I can. Deebo Samuel, locked and loaded. He's going to be the leading target guy for the 49ers right now. Devonta Smith, I think if you have Smith, you got to find a way to get him in your lineups. George Kittle, Dallas Goedert, you're going to use these guys for sure. Zach Ertz didn't practice today, so if Ertz is out, you're going to really like Dallas Goedert. If you have Brandon Ayuk, I'm probably just going to leave him on the bench. I think I have to update this and put him down here. Jalen Reagor. Reagor's kind of a wide receiver 3 flex for me. I kind of view him in the Kenny Golladay, Corey Davis, Jacoby Myers tier. I don't really trust it quite yet, but I'm interested to see if he can do more. I have maybes listed for the defenses. I just don't know if I trust it. I did see a question here. This was a good one. I'm going to cherry pick this one. Do you think Gainwell will take over Sanders' job through time? It could very well happen. I think it would take some kind of injury to Sanders where, like, okay, second quarter of a game, Sanders gets hurt and has to go to the locker room for a quarter or two, and Kenneth Gainwell is just having a big game. That could be enough to just get him more ahead in the snaps. I really like Kenneth Gainwell quite a bit. I think he is a really good receiving back. It really depends if he can hold up in pass protection. That's what's going to keep him on the field. He did get the red zone carries last week, which I really like that as well. So I think it could be a matter of time. But man, if there's an injury to Sanders, you're looking at a really good running back too in Kenneth Gainwell here. So I like that's a good question there, Rolando. And then that's pretty much it. I'm interested in Quez Watkins. Watch for him. He's the starting slot receiver. Again, I'm trying to see if Trey Sermon's going to be held up or brought up for the roster in this one. Trent Sherfield versus Ayuk is an interesting one. And then Trey Lance. We'll see if we can get more Trey Lance. What's going on, Porsche 23? The practice report, Sanders' ankle injury had him limited. I want to see if he practiced today. Miles Sanders, he was limited today, so that's interesting. If he doesn't get a full practice in this week, we might see a little bit more Kenneth Gainwell. So I'm a big Kenneth Gainwell fan. I'm going to watch the Fantasy Doctors talk about him in a minute. All right, that's interesting to note. We'll see if he can kind of ramp up his practice participation this week. But I like Kenneth Gainwell quite a bit. I think he should be added in a lot of leagues. So before we get to the Vegas game, we got about 15 minutes left in the show. I want to look at some of these questions real quick and see if I can rifle them off. I have Michael Thomas and Judy. I could add either Gallup or Curtis Samuel to the reserve spot left. Give me Gallup over Curtis Samuel. Who should I start at the flex? Non-PPR, Tyson Williams, Robbie Anderson, Ayuk, Sermon, Fuller, Beasley, Nyheim Hines. I would have to pick up Nyheim Hines. I'll roll the dice with Fuller. I think he's got a really good upside here. He's probably going to be in the 70 to 80-yard range, and he's probably got a good shot at a touchdown. Yeah, go ahead. You can send that to me. Start 2, Julio, Deontay, Joe Mixon, Denver's Javonte Williams, and AB. I'm going to go with Mixon hands down for sure. That's the easiest one of the two. I think I'm going to go with Antonio Brown, man. I want a piece of that Bucs offense. And then we answered that. What's going on, Samuel? Thanks for hanging out and asking questions. Gaskin or James Robinson for RB2? I'll go with Gaskin. I feel a little bit safer about his higher floor. I trust the Dolphins a little bit more than the Jaguars. So I think that's a pretty easy one. I'm going to go with Gaskin. What's going on, Greg? Thanks for hanging out. I traded for Gaskin and Ayuk for Clyde before week 1. Should I be worried about Ayuk and Gaskin? I'm fine with Gaskin. I think if you signed up for Gaskin, you know you're going to get somewhere between 10 and 15 points each week as a floor. I like that quite a bit. And with Brandon Ayuk, it's just a matter of time. I think Shanahan kind of called him out today to say, hey, man, like we're waiting for you to get healthy and get your stuff together to get you back in the field. He's a really good player. I don't think I'm going to trust Ayuk in the starting lineup right now, but I mean, as far as Gaskin and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think most people would say I'd rather have Gaskin than Clyde Edwards right now. So we got a handful of people watching in the chat room. Who would you guys rather have? Would you rather own Myles Gaskin rest of the season or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? That's an interesting question here that might help Greg. So I'm not going to be worried about it. I think you got Gaskin. And then if Ayuk can get his things figured out, I think down the line Ayuk's going to probably enter a good graces again. And then Devin saying, I really like Shepard, wondering if he is worth dropping a Murray, Beasler, Aguilar, Waddle, or Ayuk for. So you got a lot of receivers here. Devin, who are your other running backs? If you can get rid of Latavius Murray, say you have 4 running backs ahead of him, I don't see him being valuable to you. Whereas Beasley, Aguilar, Waddle, and Ayuk has the highest upside of the group. I want to keep Waddle. I would ask yourself, between Aguilar and Beasley, who are you less comfortable throwing out in your starting lineup? Like, who do you trust the least? Because between the group, if you have 4 running backs ahead of Murray, I'm fine with letting Murray go. But otherwise, I'd probably be looking at Beasley or Aguilar. And you have Dalvin Cook. I'm assuming that's Aaron Jones and Najee Harris. I don't ever see you starting Latavius Murray over those guys at this point. But I think Murray's probably worth holding on to. I would consider asking myself, is it Aguilar or Cole Beasley that I would prefer dropping? I think Cole Beasley offers, anytime you throw Cole Beasley out there, you know he's going to rack up reception. So I think I'm comfortable with that. I might let Aguilar go. In this situation. But I agree with you. I really like Shepard. I think in the long run, Shepard over Beasley or Aguilar makes sense to me. I would prefer him for sure. Rolando has Miles Sanders, so I'm scared of Gainwell suddenly taking over. Hopefully, as long as Sanders stays healthy, I think he's going to be useful. And the interesting thing here, too, is it was 1 week, and they blew out the Atlanta Falcons, okay? I want to see what the Eagles do this week. It's going to be a much tougher game against the 49ers. We're going to learn a lot more, too. If they are in a tight game, maybe Sanders stays on the field a little bit more. Do they trust the rookie? That's something to keep an eye on here, too. So let's wait 1 more week before we get a better idea what the Sanders-Gainwell opportunity can be. Should we start Antonio Brown over Adam Thielen? Just to let you know, I have Gronkowski and Evans in my lineup. No, I'll go with Thielen. As long as Thielen's healthy, man, he's looking like a good bet for a touchdown every week. I know you got the Antonio Brown Gronk, Evans in the lineup. I think a better question might be, do you want Antonio Brown or Mike Evans? That, to me, would be the question. I'm probably going to start Adam Thielen. I know it's the Cardinals, but A.J. Brown scored a touchdown last week. I think Adam Thielen looks like a good bet. So I think the question's more between Antonio Brown, Mike Evans. I just want to see I just want to look up a projection website real quick to see who they're favoring, Antonio or Big Mike Evans. I'll go with Mike Evans. So I'm going to say get Adam Thielen in the lineup. No problem, sir. What would you recommend doing with Mike Evans if he sees wide receiver 3 production again with the Buccaneers? And yeah, the Giants defense. What would you do with Mike Evans if he sees wide receiver 3 production again? Well, the good news, it is the Atlanta Falcons. I have a feeling Mike Evans, he just needs one play. I think Tom Brady's like, okay, there seems to be kind of like an honor system with Tampa Bay, whereas like they want to make sure everyone's eating and is happy. They know Mike Evans didn't play well last week. How they view Mike Evans, though, as the alpha receiver of that group. If Mike Evans comes out and gets another 4 or 5 point game, we'll evaluate that next week. But I have a pretty good feeling that I would wager that Mike Evans gets you some double-digit fantasy points this week. Probably a good bet for a touchdown too. So let's just hold it for one more week. It is the Atlanta Falcons defense. We saw Jalen Hurts go wild against them last week. So if Evans does get 4 or 5 points, you got to hold him. You don't want to cut him because it's just a matter of time before he has that one big game. Say week 3, Evans goes out and catches 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, then we can maybe trade him and sell him high. But if he goes out and has another bad game, I'm not going to sell low or anything. Let's just hold him. But anyways, we got 10 minutes left in the show. I did want to try to get through all these real quick. On the Steelers versus the Las Vegas Raiders, Ben Roethlisberger and Derek Carr. This is going to be an ugly game. They're both fringe quarterback 2s in Superflex leagues. I want to get Najee Harris in my lineups. Josh Jacobs is not practicing today. I don't know if I trust Josh Jacobs against this good Pittsburgh's defense. So if you have Josh Jacobs questions, I can answer the comments below. But Deontay Johnson, Juju, I'm going to try to get those guys in my lineups. Chase Claypool, it's the Raiders. I'm going to try to get Chase Claypool in my lineups. Darren Waller. We know what we're getting with Darren Waller. He's a must start every week. And Kenyon Drake, I think with the health of Josh Jacobs right now, I want to get Kenyon Drake in my lineups. He's kind of in the Chase Edmonds, James White, Kareem Hunt tier for me. He's a high floor PPR back. And then Hunter Renfrow, Bryan Edwards, I'm going to remove these guys from the list. We shouldn't be using these guys at all. Start the Pittsburgh Steelers defense every week. We'll monitor these guys on the bench. Moving on to the Saints and the Carolina Panthers real quick. Winston, a fringe quarterback 1. Sam Darnold, barely a quarterback 2. I'm nervous about this Saints defense looking really good. Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, those guys are in our lineups. I think you gotta roll with DJ Moore still. Robbie Anderson's interesting. He did reward you with a touchdown last week, but only 3 targets. I'm a little bit nervous about Robbie Anderson. It's a tough matchup. I would probably err on the side of somebody else. Adam Troutman could be a tight end 1 streamer this week. He did have 6 targets last week. Marquez Callaway, he kind of burned us last week. Maybe we leave him on the bench and make him prove it. Start the Saints defense. I'm going to say nope to the Panthers. And then Marshall Jr., I want to watch more of him. Dan Arnold is just kind of a bunch of nothing here on the bench. So we'll wait and see what happens. But Saints defense, get those guys off the waiver wire if you can. Let me see what we got here. I'd trade him as soon as he hits. Yes. as soon as you can get Evans gone after a big game, let's do it. You think I can trade Davis and Smith on the Eagles for a top receiver? Davis and Smith. Mike Davis and Devonta Smith for a top receiver. I don't know about a stud receiver. It depends on how good Devonta Smith were to do week 2. But with Devonta Smith and Mike Davis, you're probably looking at a solid wide receiver 2. Think like Adam Thielen. Think maybe Chris Godwin, kind of in that tier. And yeah, A.J. Brown was limited today in practice. That's going to be the story, I think, of his Wednesdays. In the grand scheme of things, Wednesday is the least important day of practice. You want to see your guys get a limited on Thursday or a limited on Friday. Thursday and Friday are the most important practices, and A.J. Brown has historically not really done a lot of practicing on Wednesday, so it's just kind of a rest walkthrough day for him. Josh Jacobs or Juju non-PPR. Give me Juju. I'm a little bit nervous about Josh Jacobs. Steelers defense. The Raiders don't have an offensive line. Give me Juju. Is Lattimore and Davenport or someone else down in the Saints secondary? Lattimore had something come up. on I think it was his hand. He had a chipped something in his hand. Marshawn Lattimore doubtful with the hand injury. And then Davenport here, questionable with the shoulder. He did not practice today. So the Saints are really banged up on defense. So maybe we'll have to watch this and monitor what's going on here. But a lot of defensive players are not practicing today. So maybe they're just getting rested here. Jets, Corey Davis, that could be a good one there. I'm sour over Callaway. That guy almost beat me with Tyrod Taylor and Hunt in our league. What's going on, Noah? Thanks for hanging out. Should I start Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin this week? I have Tom Brady, so if I start Chris Godwin, I would have that stack. Yeah, let's go with the stack. Chris Godwin and Tom Brady against Atlanta. They're both – Godwin and Robinson are both probably top 10, top 15 options this week. But I think if that's more fun to you, give me Tom Brady over Andy Dalton as my quarterback for my receiver. So I didn't understand. Can I ask something about Saquon? Yeah, go for it, man. Go with whatever you need. Denver Broncos, though, at Jacksonville real quick. I got about 5 more minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can. Teddy Bridgewater, fringe quarterback 2. Trevor Lawrence, fringe quarterback 2. Marvin Jones, I think, belongs in your lineups as a wide receiver 3 flex. I kind of trust him the most. DJ Chark is also a good option. Laviska Shenault, a high floor PPR guy. Noah Fant is a tight end 1 this week. As far as the flexes in Denver, I'm going to try to get these guys in my lineups, but Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, I don't know who the wide receiver 1's going to be this week, but I like both as top 35, top 40 options. I'm going to lean towards getting Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams in my lineups this week. It's Jacksonville. They just allowed the Houston Texans. They allowed 3 Texans running backs to score touchdowns last week. So Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, it could be a pretty good day for the Broncos backs. Keep an eye on KJ Hamler. He's going to be the slot receiver with Judy out. So keep an eye on KJ Hamler. Check your waiver wires. Start the Broncos defense and keep an eye on Albert Okwuegbunam. If anything happens to Noah Fant, we're going to want to dial up him on the waiver wire speed dial. James Robinson, I need to see something from Jacksonville to make me trust it. He's a fringe top 30 running back here. He's probably best used as a flex, but he can be a running back too. It was like the worst case scenario for Jacksonville last weekend, and he got 8 points, so he's got a decent floor there. He just needs to continue to get the carries. Sunday's late games, Minnesota, Arizona. We'll cover this in a sec. He's saying stack it. Are you at all worried about Calvin Ridley? I guess that says it, right? I'm a little bit worried about Calvin Ridley. This team's probably going to have to just abandon the run most games here. So I think you could see just a massive volume opportunity for Calvin Ridley. What Calvin Ridley needs, though, is he needs Kyle Pitts to take some heat off of him. He needs Russell Gage to take some heat off of him because defenses could just start double teaming Calvin Ridley. But if there's a presence of another threat, whether it's Pitts or even Olamide Zaccheaus or Russell Gage, he needs a little bit of help here. So this Tampa Bay game, we just saw Tampa Bay defense get lit up by the Dallas Cowboys receivers. I think Calvin Ridley should be fine this week. I would expect Matt Ryan tries to bounce back here. So I'm a little nervous, but let's give it one more week. It's a tough matchup. If Ridley performs this weekend, no more worries. It's Tampa Bay is one of the best defenses. I know they give up pass yards, but we'll see. After this weekend, I'll have a better answer. Jamal Williams or Devontae Parker, DFS. Give me Jamal Williams, man. He's returning to Green Bay. He's going to probably catch a handful of passes. He got a good shot at a touchdown, too, if they get close. What do you think about Saquon moving forward if he can stay healthy? So here's the thing. Saquon Barkley played Sunday, 29 snaps, roughly 30 yards of total offense, not even. Short week, Thursday night. I'm a little bit nervous to get Saquon Barkley in my lineups this week, and after Thursday night, they get 10 days of rest for week 3. I think week 3, you're probably going to start to see Saquon Barkley kind of return to normal. So just the tight window from Sunday to Thursday, the short week, makes me nervous. It's also Washington. I'm nervous about Saquon tomorrow night, but if he comes out healthy, week 3, we might see him unleashed after a full 10 days rest. So I think Saquon could have a nice stretch coming up here, and no problem. Noah? One more question. How often do you stream? So the schedule going forward, I think Tuesday nights, I do a live stream for about a half hour to an hour. That's the waiver wire show. So Tuesday night, if you need waiver wire questions, we'll do that. And then every Wednesday night, around the same time, I'm going to be doing the start sit show here. And I'm trying to think. Thursday nights, I usually don't stream. And then I take off Thursday nights just to enjoy the football game and kind of not have to worry about anything. But going forward, I will either do a Friday night stream or a Saturday night stream. It depends on my schedule. So this week we'll do a Friday night stream, and Saturday I'll be a little bit busy. But for sure, Wednesdays and Tuesdays. Tuesdays waiver wire. Wednesdays are this show right here. So come hang out more. I'm glad to answer your guys' questions. But I basically took up the hour. If you guys do, I didn't get to cover a lot of the start-sit stuff here. I'm excited about the Vikings and the Cardinals game. Get Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Jefferson, Thielen in your lineups. You're going to get Kyler Murray, Chase Edmonds, DeAndre Hopkins in your lineups. Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore, interesting guys that could be a flex option for you. I don't really trust either defenses. I know the Cardinals look really good, so I would lean towards the Cardinals, but they're projecting a lot of points to be scored in this game. I just want to say Falcons, Matt Ryan, maybe a quarterback 2 for Superflex. I don't feel great about it, but I'm gonna continue to get Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts in my lineup. Tampa Bay, start them all. Start everybody. They say Ronald Jones is going to be the starter this weekend, so if you guys have Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones questions, I can answer those. Start Tampa Bay's defense, of course. Dallas, LA Chargers. This is the game of the week. 55.5 total implied points here. Get everybody in this game that you can. Everybody here that I have listed here, try to get them in your lineups if you can. Super excited about Mike Williams. This might be the last week to maybe try and trade for Mike Williams. People who have Mike Williams are like, I don't know, he's always so boom bust. This might be, if he goes out and plays a big game against Dallas, Mike Williams might not be able to be bought for trade. So keep an eye on Mike Williams in this one. Tennessee, Seattle. This is another really awesome game in the afternoon. You're going to try to get Tannehill, Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones in your lineups. Get Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, Lockett, Metcalf, and then maybe Gerald Everett sprinkled in there at tight end. Sunday Night Football, just awesome schedule in the afternoon in the Sunday night game here. Mahomes, Clyde, Tyreek, Kelsey, we know we're doing that. I'm probably not going to trust Mecole Hardman until I see a little bit more. Lamar, quarterback 1 for you. Tyson Williams, Latavius Murray, I still don't know. We're going to expect Lamar Jackson to have to throw the ball a lot, so I'm worried about the running game. So for me, I like Lamar, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, Sammy Watkins, and I don't know about Tyson or Latavius Murray. I need more data points. Tampa or Green Bay and the Detroit Lions. Detroit's very simple. This offense is going to run through Goff, Swift, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson. That's all we're going to trust for the Detroit Lions. Swift is a running back. He's a fringe running back 1, I think, with that volume. Jamal Williams, running back 2 flex. Hawkinson, congrats if you got Hawkinson. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Davonte Adams. This is the bounce back game we're waiting for here. Robert Tonyan, maybe another bounce back. And then keep an eye on Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He led the team in receptions last week. So that was a mouthful. We just finished the week 2 the week 2 start sit show. Sometimes I want to just, when it rolls off the tongue, like the start shit show, that kind of comes off my mind a lot. But thank you, Justin. Let's answer this one for the walk-off here. Damian Harris or Brandon Cook, not to start, but just to have on my roster. It depends if you need running backs or receivers. I try not to want to trust the Houston Texans, but man, if they're going to have to throw the ball, Brandon Cooks is the clear option there. I think Damian Harris, though, is probably the guy that has more value to me. Brandon Cooks, I'm never going to feel safe with him as my wide receiver 3, whereas Damian Harris comes out week 1, gets 23 carries. If Bill Belichick trusts him this weekend against the Jets to get another 20 carries and get a touchdown or 2, Damian Harris is going to be on a lot of people's up and up next week. So thank you guys so much in the chat room. We had some new faces. Rolando, thanks for hanging out. Justin, thanks for hanging out. Devin, Noah, Porsche 23, man, I hope you have a good night, sir. Harris YT. Who else was new tonight? We had a lot of new faces. This was pretty cool. Ryan Kendrick, thanks for hanging out tonight. I'm losing some names here. Kyle Ellis, Fantasy Guru. Who else we got here? JJ, Tron. We had Gabe Flores in the building tonight. Just a lot of people. I'm so thankful for you guys hanging out and asking questions and hanging out with me tonight. Again, Tuesdays, waiver wire show. Wednesdays, we do the start sit show. And then either Friday night or Saturday night, I try to just do one more questionnaire show where I just look at news blurbs and practice reports and whatnot. So this week, we're going to do the Friday show. So come with your questions. We'll see you guys later. Thank you again so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.